All right, I think we're getting here, Dave. Those of you who are out there in Facebook land, I'm Brian Weinstein. This is Divided We Stand, a Facebook group on Facebook, and I'm just trying to get Dave's picture even with mine right now. And let's see this. Dave. For Christ's sake. Let me get this, Dave. And all right, Dave. Maybe over here and down a wee bit.
I want my picture to be
I
bigger than
can
yours.
tell you. Okay. All right. Let me just make this.
Center.
All right. There we go. All right. That's good enough for now.
Yeah, sure.
You'll have to excuse me. Usually I have something a little bit different on this. Let me just see.
Now we're not live, right?
We're live right now.
Even there's people out there.
Absolutely, there are
You
people.
just made my picture smaller. I want to be larger than you.
Well, okay. I'm trying to get things.
In
right.
real life, I'm larger than you.
Okay, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I am. Trust me.
Okay, let me get this a little bigger here. All right.
Okay.
There we go. Now we're just.
Now we're even.
All right, now we get this set up. So, all right, actually the picture's quite clear. Again, I'm Brian Weinstein, and this is Divided We Stand on Facebook. This is also on YouTube eventually, and that will be Divided We Stand on YouTube. This is something entirely new. For those of you who know me on Head in the Box, we talk about a lot of different things from climate change to philosophy, sometimes some politics. But we've been generally kind of avoiding politics on Head in the Box, so it was my idea that I kind of separate heavy-duty politics and put it on this channel, which is Divided We Stand. And why not have anyone better than my good friend David Price to appear in our show? David is a writer, he's a speaker, and he also is a tour guide in Washington, D.C., and he's a longtime friend of mine, and he adds a lot of political expertise to the discussion. And again, I want to remind everybody, he is from Washington, D.C., so he is kind of a little bit of an insider. So welcome, Dave. It's good to see you.
Welcome, Brian. Good to be here. I do have one objection already. You'll be hearing from my attorney in the morning. You described me as a good friend of yours.
Okay.
No, people out there, no way. I met Brian once. That's all. I've never seen him before. He just dialed in.
Right. Well, hopefully you can all hear us. So if you can hear us on Facebook, just tell us. So that'd be a big help in the comments section. And if you have any comments, make sure you do. But Dave, first of all, welcome. This is the inaugural show. I don't know where this is going to go, but let's give it a shot. Today I was watching the press conference, and it made me so upset that I did want to put this live. And you can tell by the name, Divided We Stand, how I feel right now about the country. And I think that a lot of people would avoid joining a group that says Divided We Stand, because we're not used to that type of mentality in this country.
True.
Divided we fall. I'd like to get your opinion about the expression Divided We Stand at this point in time in our country.
Well, if you study history, I'm not a historian, but I do read a lot. And we have sayings in the United States. And one of those, united we stand, right? Well, if you look at this country, we've been divided far more than we have stood together. Even we think, oh, World War One. Do you know how many people did not want to enter World War One? Well, let's go to World War Two. No. A lot of people said it's not our job. We're isolationists. That's Europe. Even confronted with news of the Holocaust. Oh, that can't be happening. I think the difference today, Brian, as I look at it from the journalistic standpoint, also from a political standpoint, is two things. One is the 24/7 news cycle, which didn't exist when I was a news person in the 70s and 80s. And the second thing is, of course, social media. And social media is a wonderful thing. We're on it right now, right? You can reach out. But the problem is anyone can reach out and say anything they want. So there's really no filter. So divided we stand. I was asked this question a lot when we were talking at the museum when I was doing tours there. And I kind of came up with this answer. If you go back and look at the American Revolution, right? So even before we're America, interesting enough, if you run the statistics, they didn't call them statistics then, the country was about a third, a third, and a third. And roughly a third, and it was the smallest third, if there is such a thing, if that's not an oxymoron, wanted to secede, get rid of the king and leave England. And they were mostly people of some power, merchants paying the taxes and stuff. The next larger third, slightly larger, was people who said, no, wait a minute, my grandmother lives in England. We want to be British. This isn't a fine thing. And then you had the final third, which was probably the largest. And they said, just leave me alone. I don't really care. Just leave me alone. Well, let's flash forward to kind of the thing we're in now. And I would attribute that. I'm calling it the Trump times. The election to bring Trump in, a third, and a third, right? Roughly. A third of the country, smallest third, but with the Electoral College, the most important, favored Trump. Hillary Clinton, I always get upset with this. Well, she won the popular vote. That's true. It's not that it's fake, but it doesn't matter. It's like saying, well, she won the football game, but we were playing baseball. The game was the Electoral College, and the largest third, or a large third, did not vote. So the question becomes, where did this united we stand come? Well, a lot of it came from Lincoln, right? A house divided cannot stand. We're the United States of America. Bull dookie. We've been the disunited states for a long, long time. The difference, as I say, is we're more aware of it today. If I make a disparaging comment about President Trump, and I've made thousands of them, immediately I get people who, oh, you're terrible, you're this, you're a hater, you're divided. Well, I don't know, honestly, Brian, if we're really more divided today. I think it's just more people realize we are through cable news and social media.
Right. It's interesting because I've been around for 60 years, and I personally feel as though this is different than anything before. I mean, you were the one who suggested that I watch The Plot Against America, and it's been very, very tough watching that. In general, it would be tough watching it anyway, Dave, as you know, but what's going on today seems to parallel in many ways what's happening in that series. And it's very, very difficult to watch because you start worrying and you start saying, hey, could this really, really happen? And later in the program, we're going to discuss specifically why. But don't you feel in any way that there is something different about this time period? I think...
Let's pick up a little bit on Fox America.
Your volume just went out a little bit, Dave.
Okay, can you get it back up?
Yeah, there you go.
Quit touching. All right, so anyway, what we have, it's a novel, so it's fiction by Philip Roth, one of America's greatest writers, contemporary. And basically, it's a storyline of an alternate history where Charles Lindbergh defeats FDR and becomes the president. And Charles Lindbergh, a real person, FDR was a real person, many real persons in there. But Lindbergh was co-opted, I guess you could say, by Nazi Germany. They gave him a couple medals. He thought they were pretty good. He thought Hitler was running the country pretty well. Would want to emulate him. So you say, is it different? Well, of course. But I want to tie into something I think that's very, very important that people understand. Initially, very early on, people were making the comparisons between Trump and Hitler, and on their face, oh my God, they're two different. Oh my God, Hitler killed millions, and all Trump did was sleep with a porn star and buy her off, that kind of thing. And I mean, that was in a way a fair comparison. But here's what people miss, and this is the way I pointed out: Hitler wasn't Hitler until Hitler became Hitler. So, Brian, what you said is very important. You look at the pattern, and the pattern is complete authority and turning the supposed majority, that would be whoever is backing the power, against the others. And that is classic Hitler. Hitler was a great manipulator. He was a great speaker. I don't find anything admirable at all about Donald Trump as a man. I don't find anything admirable as a human being, nor a businessman, nor a leader. Having said that, he does reach out this way. People have seen him. He has a myth. He doesn't. He wouldn't tell the truth if you ask him if today were whatever day it is. He wouldn't tell you the truth. He doesn't know. But people seem to like that a little bit, and they like that about Hitler. And the key thing that I think he did
well, two, but I'll do the one first. Make America great again, right? It was his
Right.
slogan.
Still is.
Well, right.
Or keep
My
America
question was
great.
always make America great for who? First of all, that would mean if you bought that slogan that it was once great. Okay, so great for whom? Great. Well, let's say great for black people. I don't think so. Great for women. I don't think so. Great for Jewish people, Italian people, Eastern European people, gay men and women. No, I don't think so. Good for just women in general. No. What great for America means is it was great for white men. Very simply, that's what it means. And Trump struck a bell with that. People are terrified today of change. They've always been. This is more, Brian, you say what's different? Today, I just celebrated last week my 68th birthday. And what I found a true march through those 68 years, change comes faster and faster and faster and faster. And most human beings, kind of hunker down. I don't want to change. I don't want to change this quickly. So Trump was able to ring that and say, we're going to go back. One last thing I'll say on that. Look, the idyllic 50s, right? Supposedly idyllic. Take it apart and look at it. The greatest movie to do that is probably, David Lynch's Blue Velvet. And what he does is he shows this beautiful little white picket fence, and he digs down, and then you find these insects in the very beginning fighting in the dirt. And first of all, then the last thing with that, you can't go back, okay? Until we invent a time machine, you're not going back. You're going forward. Time moves forward. Mm-hmm. And Donald Trump would have been an anachronism in any time. He would have been a horrible person in any time. And yet that's who we have as our leader right now.
Right. Okay, that's going to lead me to the press conference, because there's a lot to discuss on this, but I would be remiss not to actually show these sections. And I know, Dave, you have not seen
before
the press
you put that on, I just want to say something. Now,
Sure.
And people say, "Do you watch that?" You're kind of I've got a reputation as being a political junkie, and I said, absolutely not. I have not watched network news or even local news since 76 or so, and I don't want to put my colleagues in the TV business down, but it is entirely different. It has always been, and it's getting more different. It's theater. It's not necessarily news and information. Trump is brilliant at that. Okay. So my advice to anyone is, and I say this as a print journalist, as a writer, don't watch it. Watch it the next day. Now we have YouTube. Do it so you can turn it off. So you just get. It's like, I don't know. It's like the way we watch accidents, right?
Right.
You shouldn't watch it, but we do. And this man, whenever he takes the stage, is a human accident. So yeah, play it. I haven't seen it. But
Sure.
let's see
Okay.
what
Now, I'm going to have around 5 or 6 different portions of this. This is probably the longest one, and I wanted to get to this first. So just to lead up to it.
Do you want to play a portion and discuss it?
Right. I'm going to play a portion, but I just want to, ahead of time, tell everybody that there's going to be a question coming from the press, and it's kind of hard to hear, but he asked the president about Section 3, Article 2 of the Constitution, and we'll see it. So with any further ado, I'm going to play.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. Okay, now, if I'm going to make sure that you can hear this. If you can't hear this, make sure that you do tell me. Okay. So
I can read lips.
All right. Well, let's see. 13,
Lying lips are
5,
hard.
13, okay, let's put it on from here.
Earlier last month, you were in the Oval Office, talked about now is not the time for partisanship. How will that act lower the partisanship in this town, and could it potentially hinder your ability to get something done on coronavirus?
Well, look, it's been a very partisan government for a long period of time, not just this administration. You can go back into the last 2 administrations. You've seen a lot of partisanship. And even now, you would think that we wouldn't have, as an example, with the paycheck plan. That's going so well. It's so smooth, so beautiful, almost without a hitch. All of that money is being distributed to small businesses. They're giving it to their employees. It's keeping them ready, viable, so when we open. And now it's been so good that it's almost depleted, and we want to replenish it, and we can't get the Democrats to approve it. And that's a program that they and everybody else admit that are great. So you do have partisanship. We have been trying for years to get people approved for positions. People have left. One man left a law firm. one man left a big chain. He was a very successful executive. He left. It was 2 years ago. We have people that have been waiting for 3 years, and we can't get them approved by the Democrats in the Senate because they're taking so long to approve our judges. Now, I have to tell you that I'm totally in favor of what Mitch is doing with judges, because that's always seems to be a priority, and it's a very important priority. I think it's one of the great trademarks of this administration. We've approved record numbers of federal judges and appellate judges and 2 Supreme Court judges. But rather than approving somebody who's highly qualified, somebody that everybody knows is going to be approved, rather than going quickly, they take the maximum amount of time, whatever that time may be. And what they're doing by doing that is taking days to approve somebody that could be approved in a quick vote. People that get phenomenal reviews in committee are going maximum number of hours. And what they do is there's only so many hours in a day. Now, we could have said, let's stay. I would have been in favor of that. They didn't choose to do it. But I have a very strong power. I'd rather not use that power. But we have way over 100 people that we very badly need in this administration that should have been approved a long time ago. And one of them is the head of Voice of America. If you look at what they're doing and what they're saying about our country, it's a disgrace, the people that are running that. We have somebody that's really good, really talented, and that loves our country. And I want to get these people approved. That's one of many. We have professionals. Sonny, you've been waiting for, how long have you been waiting for the man that we're talking about coming in? 2.5 years. So Sonny Perdue just happens to be here talking about something else. So you've been waiting for one of the most important positions as Secretary of Agriculture is the position. It's distribution. We need it now. We're talking about shelves. We're talking about cupboards. He needs it. He's been waiting.
Okay, so he can go on and on with that, and I don't want to go too
Brian,
far.
I know you want to have people do it. Look, you could tear that thing apart so easily. Honestly, I've got a one word when he speaks: bullshit. Okay, It's what it is. Now, we'll throw some questions we'll talk about because we need to break it down. Now, bullshit is like beauty; it's in the eye of the beholder. His father, it sounds great, right? Oh, it sounds great. I've been trying so hard to get, get it approved. Okay? I only hire the best people. Look at the number of people that he's hired who are doing jail time.
Right.
President of the United States. I say this tonight in all sincerity. I can't predict the future. I certainly didn't predict to be president. I'm going to go out on a limb tonight and say it to anybody. When Donald Trump leaves the White House, the state of New York will file charges against him. Now, he knows that. He's in a rush to get things done. It's not about the hurry. He's in no hurry. He wants to leave his stamp, his obnoxious, smelly stamp on America. Your take, Brian. What do you think?
Well, I just really wanted to know is I'm wondering if he won't be able to pull this off.
Will or won't? I'm sorry.
Will, if he will be able to pull this off.
Okay, sure. Here's the thing. I haven't been around for all the presidents, right? But I have been around since Eisenhower. I was little, okay, but I do remember it. I will go on record tonight as saying Donald Trump knows less about the Constitution than any president who served since 1950.
But he keeps winning, Dave. He keeps winning at it.
The reason he keeps winning, Brian, is I'll ask you this: does he win in the House?
No, he doesn't win in the House. He doesn't win in the House.
Why?
He doesn't have the votes.
Exactly. Okay. Now, my question is, Brian, it's very simple. I'm not an expert, but I live down here. I see it. I've covered politics. I'm fascinated with it. Politics is very simple. People look at it for justice and fair. It's not. It's about power. It's about who has the power. All right. Right now, if you look at the presidency, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the House, they're the four most important, I would say, institutions. Well, the Republicans control 3.
Right.
But their control is very tenuous on 2 of those. One is the presidency, and the other is the Senate. Now, Trump, I don't think he's smart enough, but I think some Republicans are smart enough to get as many judges as we can.
Right.
Look, I said that early, not because I'm smart. I just said there are things that people don't understand about elections. And one is you don't elect the president. You don't. You elect the person who's going to appoint the people that affect your lives. And the biggest effectors, more than the Senate, more than the House, I'm going to submit, except for war, more than the president, is the Supreme Court. So that's what we have right now. Mm-hmm. So you're saying, why does he win? You just said it. He has the votes. If tomorrow he didn't have the votes, he would lose. Mm-hmm. And so right now, the key is for anybody out there who feels like I do, that Trump is an abomination, that should not be president. And it's not he's a personal abomination. He is, okay? But he doesn't understand democracy. He doesn't understand. He doesn't. I mean, I'd love to say, I'm wrong. No, he doesn't. The idea, and he's in love with two things. He's in love with himself,
right?
Probably the biggest narcissist I've ever encountered in my lifetime. And then the second thing he's in love with is he's in love with power. And a narcissist with power is a very dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
Right? I think he doesn't understand. He overestimates the true power that he has. And the reason is the Republicans. It's like, I look at this with it, Brian. It's like Trump is something he would never be. He'd be a lot of things. He would not be an alcoholic and a drug addict. It would surprise me, just given his background where he says. But the Republican Party are enablers. They're enablers. They're taking someone who's unfit to be president and saying, yeah, you are, keep going, keep going, keep going. Why? Because they're winning, right? And an enabler, I'm someone who can speak to that because I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. You don't stop with enablers. You don't even stop if you don't have something. So Trump is just now. We were talking earlier about the Hitler comparison.
Right.
You're saying some things out now.
Well, actually, I was more comparing to plot.
Well,
it's the same idea. You have an autocratic leader who's
other historical figures
advantage of the position
that had power. Napoleon was pretty damn powerful and good. He had his Waterloo. Okay,
correct.
I don't think the Genghis Khan dynasty is still running.
His DNA is still around in a lot of people.
That's true, but he's not, right? And his people.
Thankfully, Trump can't do that.
Nobody stays in power the whole time. And for Trump, I don't know him. I actually have been in his presence twice and heard him speak. But I think if I'm looking at him, I think he hears a clock. I really do in his background, and it's going tick tock, tick tock. And so he's going to do anything he can in this. And it seems like forever, but November is just around the corner. It really is.
Well, that's again, if I may interject for a second. Sure. You mentioned about the tick-tock that's in the back of his head. I have this sneaking suspicion that many of us who are liberal have that same very tick. I think I have more of a tick-tock than he does. I'm seeing everything erode in this country. I don't, and you've known all along since we've discussed Trump the last 3 years. I'm not so confident that he's not going to be able to pull this off.
Well, Brian, of course, we don't know. I will say this. Maybe I'm being naive. I try to pride myself on my realism. And I've been shocked with a number of things. But I think there are some lines. They haven't been reached yet, so Lord knows what they are.
Right.
I don't think Mitch McConnell has any lines. I was.
You have Matt Gaetz. You have Devin. All these.
Yeah, but they're minor players. Okay, they're there. They're the votes. They're not big players. McConnell is a huge player. All right, and it might come down right now. It's really McConnell and Trump, and they have become whatever. And I don't know. But together they're getting their agenda through. But there comes a point. I don't know what that point is. And right now, when you start saying, I am the ultimate authority, which he was hinting at this week, when you're saying, look, I'm just going to do something the presidents have never done. I'm just going to disband the fact of Congress coming back, and I'm going to do this. And that shouldn't surprise us. He said in his campaign, I am the only person who can.
Right.
Look at the people he's appointed. I mean, my God, find someone. I spent 30 some years in education. Find me somebody worse than Betty DeVoe, whatever her name is. DeVoe, whatever. Find me somebody worse. There's nobody worse. I was talking tonight, and I don't mean this to sound funny. I really don't. But this is how bad I think things are. Obviously, in these times, homelessness is increasing a lot. and I know a few homeless people. I live in Crystal City. And tonight I saw one. He calls me boss. Interesting intro to it. He says, "Hey, boss, can I have $20?" I said, "What for?" He said, "So I can sleep tonight. I don't carry cash." And I said, "No." But he was very polite, very nice. I would rather have him president of the United States.
Right.
In that condition. He showed humanity, which, again, can we fault Trump? No. It doesn't exist inside of him.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't fault him for something he doesn't have. You can fault people for not seeing that he doesn't have it and electing him. So can he do it? Yes, Brian. Will he do it? There's not a lot of time.
Right.
There's just not. I mean, people, oh, wow. Now, let's override all this discussion with the thing that is completely different. The pandemic.
Right.
That's going to change everything. It has changed everything now. And it is going to change everything, I'm going to say, past the foreseeable future. You're going to have the first election that's going to be conducted with no rallies. There is no way there will be any political rallies between now and November unless, Trump pulls a rabbit, not out of his hat, but out of a lower portion of his anatomy, and somehow comes up with an open country. Look, he's delusional. He gives up the power, and now he wants it back. He didn't want any parts of this because he knew, the recovery and what to do. He gives it to the governors, and now he doesn't like what they're doing, and he wants it back. He pulls money from the World Health Organization. Okay, well, that's in keeping with, we can do this. We can't do this alone.
Right.
What I asked anybody listening tonight. I hope there's some Trump supporters listening, but I asked anybody tonight. This didn't come from America. There was something that was interesting. It was a redneck kind of meme I ran across about this. And this guy was saying, "You mean because some," and he used this word, I'm going to use what he said.
Right.
"You mean because some chink ate a bat in China, I can get the Crayola virus?" And the answer is yes. That's the world. So why would you, why would you not send money to the World Health Organization?
Right. Especially in the future, we'll need it.
Oh, you need it today, you need it tomorrow. This idea, and let's get back to that. Let's try to tie it into Trump roles. People want to go back in time, all right? The last time we had a pandemic was 1918 of the world, of this type. Ebola, sorry. No, they were, but they weren't widespread like this, okay? So 1918, I would submit to you, it was the beginning. So what's common between them? 1918 is the first time the world marched around, right? World War I, first time. Now we're marching around 24/7. For example, as much as I enjoy being here, as much as I enjoy talking to you, one of the things I enjoy most, I'm supposed to be in Australia right now with my son, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren. All right. To get there, in the air, it would have been under 24 hours. You can get anywhere now. And Trump, I think, maybe the way I look at it, Trump is still in the land of steam engine trains. And his world doesn't exist. The world as he sees it doesn't exist. People can want to wish it back. It seems like the Twilight Zone, but it isn't. It's real life. So no. Am I worried? Of course. Anybody would be a fool not to be worried. But if you ask me which worries me more, it would be obviously, to me, it would be the virus rather than Trump. Although they're both viruses. One is human.
Well, you did see perhaps, I don't know if you saw this, Dave,
Right.
but in Michigan, Michigan's an interesting state because the upper part of Michigan's very conservative.
Right.
Detroit, of course, and I guess Flint obviously would be liberal. But there were about 100 or 150 so people who protested today at the governor's office. And they said that, our rights are being invaded. In fact, I'd love to show it to you. I just don't have it.
I actually did.
Okay, so something like that, and this just goes to show you these people, these well, for want of a better word, these Trump-tards who, first of all, do you think that was planned? I mean, it doesn't seem like somebody there would be smart enough to say, we're going to get 150 people together. Well, somebody had to initiate this.
Let me answer 2 things. I'll do your direct question first. That comes to social media. There was a group down here that protested at the White House every day for a year. They were called Kremlin Annex. I would go down there from time to time and chat with them. And here's how that came to be. If you remember, it seems like 45 years ago, but it wasn't that long ago. Trump was in Finland, and he and Putin sat down for that secret confab, where they didn't release the notes. And somebody down here in D.C. said, "Oh, this is not a good thing." We better protest when he comes back. And that was on Twitter. And somebody else said, well, why don't we wait? Let's go. And that night, a protest formed that lasted for 1 year. And then they kind of, it was kind of hard to keep going, but they were doing it 3 nights a week. So back in the day, and I don't care what day you pick, it's any day before social media, that something like happened today in Michigan might take weeks, months to organize. So it could be a few tweets. Obviously, the other thing that's laying out there, Brian, whether you're liberal, conservative, whatever, there are groups that are just ready to hear your message. So, you tap into four conservative groups, and how many, what was it, about 150, is that correct, roughly, give or take? That can be gathered, very quickly from 1 or 2 things. Was it planned? No, I think the key thing here for people to break that down, and you said it, and you hear it all the time, my rights are being violated. Well, how about people's rights that don't agree with you?
Right.
All right?
That's the whole point of it.
Well, exactly. So I think my right to life is pretty damn important. It's mentioned a few places I recall and some documents in America. Well, so is the right to have a gun. The two don't necessarily exist together. One right, that's been another battle in America. Which right takes precedence over the other? And basically, if I had to sum this up, and I'll debate this with anyone, the Republicans believe in individual rights, and my right is more important than your right. And I suppose you could turn the argument around. Let's take abortion, one of the most controversial, motion change. Well, I would ask the question, maybe the rights there are the woman choosing, right? Not white males who have no idea. They probably never even found their wife's clitoris.
Right.
They don't even know anything about female anatomy, making the decisions. And you look at that. Now, the other thing that never comes in this argument, and it's frustrating to me, is, and it's not, I wish they had put it in the Constitution. If you look at it, there's another R word that comes with rights. You also have responsibilities. And that's never brought to the fore. So if you're asking me, what this, COVID-19 battle is about, it's about on one side, and I'm not saying it's simple. On one side, it's about the death of human beings, and a quick death, and the other side is slow death by economic starvation. And look, they're both disturbing. But I think you look at it, and it seems to be, if you look across the country, again, in general, I prefer the term, because I'm not a Democrat, I prefer the term liberal and conservative. So I would say if you look at the more liberal governors, they're doing the things to protect more people. The Republican, the conservative government, looking at those individual rights, we got to get these businesses open. And I think, there is some money involved. Of course, money is always there. But I just think the thing is, when people say my rights, well, your rights compared to whose rights? And then, well, what responsibilities do you have with those rights? So, 150 people in Michigan doesn't really concern me. Maybe 150,000, right?
Right. Because what I thought was kind of interesting, Dave, I check out the newspapers around the country. So, I was going to go to the Detroit Free Press, and they had a Detroit poll, what they thought about the governor's decision making. And I think it was 60% of the people were in favor strongly, and 20% were strongly not in favor of this. So just looking at that crowd, they get a lot of media access, and I understand that. But the reality is that most people understand the concept of painful death or the possibility of death. And I think that that's something we should keep in our back pocket, that no matter what happens, people are afraid of death more than they're afraid of Trump.
I would agree. The other thing is, I really liked what you said there. We all have different concepts of death. We used to play this game. It's a kind of kids game. Not a little kids, but college game. What's the best way to die? Well, the best way to die is never to have it. Okay?
Right.
That's not good. Yeah, I live forever. That's a good way now. Right. But the thing is, from what I've read from the few medical people that I've talked to, this virus, when it gets you in its death grip, as we speak, I have 2 friends my age, both in the area in which we lived, I formerly, and you still do, who are on ventilators. And basically it just sucks your lungs out. And it's, it's like you're so sedated, you don't scream. Okay. Is it like drowned? I mean, I don't know, but it's not. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people still equate this to the flu. Is it a relative of the flu? Yes. A garter snake is a relative to a killer python.
Correct.
Right? Very different things. And the other thing I think people miss is, why are we doing this? It's so the hospitals don't get overwhelmed. Okay. Can you imagine? And they're doing it. Now, can you imagine? We don't have to imagine anymore. There are doctors, at least as in New York City and other places, who actually point to someone and say, you live, you die, you live, you die, you live, you die. That's it. Right. They will not come out of this unscathed. You talk about post-traumatic stress, from military. Mm. Well, they're going to have this. They didn't sign on for this. They're doctors, but this is not something. This is something that Alan Alda, as Hawkeye and MASH, and they kind of had But if you really look into that show, they were all pretty screwed up psychologically too, right, from what they all faced. Were. Right. And I think that's another thing that Trump would have no concept of. Let's open business tomorrow. Okay. Are you and your wife going to rush out to a restaurant and sit there and spend money? Right? I don't think so. A lot of people, some industries may never come back from this. The other night, like I said, I love living down here. We have people of every ethnic group just in our building, of everything. I was talking to a flight attendant who's from American. She was young, but she was still flying. I said, well, what's up on your end? She said, well, on her routes, American Airlines had canceled 80% of their flights. Now, I'm not good with math, but I think that means they got 20% flying. And she said the report was, or the rumor was, that this week they were going to, I'm sorry, that was wrong. They'd canceled 60% of their flights, and there were 40% flying. And this week they were going to cancel 80% of the remaining 40%. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, I'm going to ask you a question. If tomorrow, let's see, you were offered a free flight, but it was going to be a packed flight. You don't know who's going to be on there, and you're going to be in the air for 22 hours. Would you fly it?
I don't even want to go to the fucking grocery store, to be honest with you.
There are, okay. And there's more of you, like when I say that, that's not you being a coward.
But what can he do, though? You see what I'm saying? And we'll get into this when I show you the next clip, but what can Trump do? For example, if he puts pressure on the states and say, okay, now you're not going to get anything from us, from the federal government, unless you do go back to work.
Okay, fine. Let's say he does that. There was a guy who tried to do that a long time ago. I think his name was George. He was actually a German, but that was his English name. I think his first name was King George. Now, am I saying we're going to have a revolution? Right. But let's just assume for a moment you're right. Let's assume that he says to the states of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, right, who have formed this group, or says it to California, Washington, and Oregon. Now, I'm going to remove them for a minute because they're on the West Coast. You don't think that there would be a mass march of some kind? You can walk from Rhode Island to D.C. It'll take you a while, right? And now, you say, well, why isn't it now? It's because right now he hasn't done it. See, he keeps thinking, and I'm sure he's not, I say he's not stupid, he's ignorant. There's a difference, okay? Right. And he's ignorant because he doesn't know what he doesn't know, and he doesn't want to learn it, okay? And he thinks he's self-sufficient unto himself, and he really does. I mean, I would be interested to ask him, who do you think is really more powerful, you or God? I have a suspicion he wouldn't say God. I don't know that. But anyway, what I'm saying is...
Well, anyway, I don't want to get philosophical, but he actually does have more power than God. But that's another story in itself. I didn't want to go there.
From your side, I know what you're saying. But right. I'm saying from the, I believe in God's side. Right. I'm just saying I'm arguing from that.
I got you.
I know. So, but what's interesting is, and I keep talking about this line, and we and I've talked about this. And there's one of my favorite shows. We shouldn't do shout on the shows, but I am. Homeland. I followed that since the beginning. Mm-hmm. It's been a brilliant show. Claire Danes is brilliant. Mandy Potemkin is brilliant. But there's a line. They always do these lines, and there's a line, and the line is, where is the line? Where's the goddamn line?
Right.
And there is a line, and I'm going to say a possible line is saying to New York, not the humorous headline, Ford to New York drop dead, literally saying, I'm not going to give you anything. Well, I maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm looking at it. I just don't. I mean, wow. I wouldn't want to be somebody having to defend the White House from people climbing over with their baseball bats or whatever.
Right. No, it just I hadn't intended in going this route, but I've always had this sneaking suspicion that people like him are kind of like Catherine the Great. And I remember the story about Potemkin's Village where he had this facade, and all he had to do was along the banks, have a few nice looking, buildings here or there. And, is this really just another Potemkin Village, what Trump has created? Or are people that ignorant to believe in it?
Okay, so we get to the Kool-Aid, right? We say about the Trumpites, they drank the Kool-Aid. It certainly, again, has the makings of a cult. Most all Trumpites would say we're not part of a cult. Well, let's assume they're not, but they're riding right along with this, right? In times, I think many of us who had good childhoods, and I did. My parents were pretty cool. And, my dad, he was from Texas, and so I'd do a little Texas drawl in honor of my dad. He'd say, son, some simple things in life. You are who you hang with. So he said, be careful who you hang with. So Trump supporters are hanging with Trump, right?
Right.
They may be, like I said, I was writing about that the other day. What I call the one issues, look, it's very simple. Again, if you're anti-abortion, Trump appears to be your man, right?
Right.
If you're for gun rights, Trump appears to be your man.
If you hate immigrants, Trump appears to be your man.
There you are, all of those. But the key word there is appears, because it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. Very little do I know as absolute truth, but I know this is true. There's only one person who's Trump's man, and that is Trump himself. Mm-hmm. The key question is, would he sell out Ivanka? That might be his line. But boy, I wouldn't want to be Jared. I wouldn't want to be Jeff Sessions. Jeff's the greatest guy in the world. Well, now, Trump's doing everything he can to keep him from being a senator again.
Well, how about the idea that, at least I've been a proponent of this idea, that the candidates are really just a projection of the constituents, and that, we kind of say, well, sooner or later, they'll get over Trump and they'll realize he's just for himself. But aren't they just, in a way, I know this is a leading question, but aren't they really just little Trumps out there because they do?
Oh yeah, of course, Brian, of course. Look, that was part of the fantasy, and Trump was good at creating that fantasy. Look, there's a part of all of us, right? I think I'm going to do males now. I can't speak to females. I've worn a dress, but I've never been a female. The idea is this: it's a pretty cool life to be a billionaire with a gold hopper who can fuck porn stars and models. Yeah, right? But what people forget is probably to be that kind of person, you can't be not a morally good person in terms of doing the actions, but it would be hard. Again, I'm going to quote the Bible, which I don't even believe is the word of God. But what is it that the old saying? Because there's a lot of sayings in there that are true. It would be harder for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. And that doesn't mean it means it's kind of the way it's set up. Capitalism invites greed and invites power. So Trump played that game. You want to be, he said it. Well, there's nothing new. Grab him by the pussy. Come on. Here's the thing. That's offensive. But he believes it. Right. It's not just words.
Well, he knew it. He knew it. I've shown videos where he says, I could get away with it because he does know that it's wrong.
And there you are.
Right.
And that's the question. Okay. Does Trump have any idea of anything he's doing is wrong? And my answer is he does not. He does not. The other thing I would say, and I'd love to ask him, so Donald, if you're out there tonight, look, I live here in Crystal City. Come on over. I don't drink. You don't drink. We'll sit here and have a Coke. I think you like Coke. We've got a great burger place down. We'll sit here and share. But my question would be along those lines. I think he thinks the world is just like him, meaning that everybody is amoral. Everybody does this. And you see it when he attacks, right?
Right.
Well, it's the old, well, all politicians are corrupt. And I think he thinks all people are bad and some of us are just better getting away with it. Well, I don't agree with him. I think we all have a tendency, we're not going to get real heavy philosophical. Good and evil are, concepts, blah, blah, blah. And we can do one or the other or both. And sometimes it depends. However, with Trump, we're back now. We're a little off track, but I think we're back. Your question really, to me, smacks of, again, is there a line he cannot cross, right? No, to him there isn't.
And doesn't that depend on the very people who like him? What line would they cross?
Well, well, they're not going to cross any line, okay, in an election. Trump is going to get, he hasn't gained any votes, I don't think, but he hasn't lost that many. But that doesn't mean he's going to win the election. Again, for anybody out there who's crying and weeping, and it's scary. Look, like I said, we got these two horrible things. One is named Trump, and one is named COVID-19.
Right.
And you could argue which is worse. I mean, I think COVID-19 in the end run, but Trump's pretty damn bad.
Right.
All right. But let's look at it from a political standpoint, from just political reality. All right. I am sort of blaming Mrs. Clinton. I don't think she ran a great campaign. I think she was overconfident. I think she had every reason to be overconfident. I was overconfident. He can't win. But had she done what Democrats were expected to do, win Michigan, right, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin,
right,
minuscule numbers of votes, had she been able to do that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So how do you defeat Trump? You win Pennsylvania, you win Michigan, and you win Wisconsin. And I think I blame sometimes, I don't like to blame my friends in journalism, but with the 24/7, it's like us. We're really talking heads tonight, okay?
Right.
I mean, we're having fun and it's great and blah, 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 blah. It really should be Donald Trump and Joe Biden talking, right? Or something, somebody more important. But we don't have that because they won't be on this show. But the idea of it is, so with Trump, again, just honing in on that, he is beatable. I just gave you a way to beat him. But people say, oh, what about Ohio? Who cares? What about Florida? Who cares? Now, there are a couple care states. Virginia is where I live now is blue. That might be a care state. You want to take care. Nevada now, they're claiming, right? Mm-hmm. Or Nevada, as you're supposed to pronounce it if you live out there. That's blue. You got to keep it that way. But, this emphasis of maybe we could win Georgia. You could someday, not today. North Carolina, up for grabs. South Carolina, you're not going to win.
No, you're not going to win that.
But, Alabama, no. I mean, there's places. But even in Alabama, I'm somewhat familiar with that because my son, when he's not working in Australia, he's a professor at the University of Alabama. You look at Birmingham, you look at Mobile, you look at Tuscaloosa, they're getting pretty damn liberal. And I don't mean liberal in the South. I'm talking because, it's like Atlanta. I live there. Atlanta is New York City just further down 95. Right. And as we do that now. So, again, the essence of anybody out there tonight, if you're living in Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin, and you don't want Donald Trump to be president, work your butt off. Grab 7 people who didn't vote last time. See, I think that's the other thing too, Brian. I don't know, my political idol as far as campaign is James Carville. I think he's one of the best there's ever been. So I would defer to Jimmy. I don't know what he said. But my idea was forget the Trumps, right? You're not going to change them. You're not going to convert them. Who cares? You have to find, each person has to find 3 or 4 people in the last presidential election who didn't vote. You know what I mean? If everybody did that, Trump is
So you
history.
have the win.
And we'll save that for another show. Would Trump actually leave? Yeah, well, you don't deal with it. You knock things down one step at a time. The first belief I said, not because I'm clairvoyant or not, I said he would get impeached, and he did. But see, people don't understand impeachment. Impeachment is a two-step process. He did get impeached. He'll go in the history books as an impeached president.
Right.
He wasn't. It's sort of like, the jury found him guilty, but the judge said, no, we're not going to sentence him to anything. And that's really what happened.
Right.
But he did get impeached. He didn't get dismissed. So the next shot we got is November. Now, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. A lot of talk, as I said. I mean, I know the election campaign will be different. What's voting day going to look like? I don't think we know.
It was bad enough, Dave. It was bad enough that you had to worry about the cheat, which I still worry about.
Oh, and you'd be a fool not to.
Why? Well, some people say there was nothing to the Russia. I still believe in.
Look, it was all those factors.
Everything. Look, you don't even have to have that. You can just look at the suppression of the vote. You can make voting difficult in so many different ways that it becomes almost impossible. And then again, you just have to worry about a lot of different things that could be going on in social media. So if you're asking my question about, if you're asking me the question about are we even going to have the vote, I think it depends on what the pollsters are looking at. If it looks like even with the cheat, I mean, if it's close and Trump's behind, I think he can win by a cheat. But I think if he sees that he could lose by 10 percentage points instead of 2, then I think you would see the possibility of saying, hey, you know what? This is dangerous. Because they look what they did in Wisconsin was atrocious.
Stop there for a moment, Brian. I agree. What they did in Wisconsin was atrocious. But who won? A Democrat.
Right. And but that's a warning to us because now they know that they got to do everything.
Well, of course they do, Brian. They're not going to look. Mitch McConnell said, President Trump said, your buddy Matt Gantz said, your best friend.
Gates.
All these people have come across and said this. Man, if everybody votes, there'll never be a Republican in office again in life. Wow. I mean, stop and think about that for a moment. Now, if you're a Republican, it's very scary, right? That means your people will never be there again.
Right.
If you're a liberal like I am, that's great. That's wonderful news. Okay? But they know that. The other thing is, I think, and again, I'd love to ask Hillary. I won't get a chance, probably. But I'd like to say, Hillary, look, were you overconfident? If she would answer honestly. And I think the honest answer is she was. And her campaign staff was. And I would have been, okay? There's no overconfidence this time, okay? Look at the Democratic Party, okay? They realize, come on. Everybody, Bernie lost. I was for Bernie in the primary in 2016. He lost. I immediately threw my support to Hillary. This time, if you'd asked me, who do you want to be president? It would have been Elizabeth Warren. But I'm more comfortable than many with Joe Biden. And I'll tell you why. Okay, when you were sick, Brian, a little kid, who'd you want?
My mother.
Right. No, that's true. But you know what she represented? Comfort, right?
Right.
Trump's the abusive father. Joe is the comforter. So I think that is a good thing for Biden. His age, of course, is a factor, but it's mitigated by Trump's age. 4 years, that doesn't make a difference, right? The question is, do you want somebody 70 to be your president? Well, guess what? Somebody 70 is going to be your president. So do you want the 70-year-old who's Joe Biden and what he stands for? Or do you want the 70-year-old who's Donald Trump and what he stands for? I have a friend here. I was just talking to him today. Give a shout out, Hosea Huggins. And he's a really interesting character. We've been friends almost since we got down here. You shouldn't look at race, but he's a black gentleman. And we always laugh. He says, like, I'm the white, or I'm the black Dave Price, but I don't curse. And that's right, he doesn't. But we were talking today, and he's going to campaign, and Joe was not his first choice, but he's going to campaign this way. And I think this is the way you need to frame it. This is not a vote against Donald Trump and Joe Biden, although of course it is. This is not a race between Republicans and Democrats, though of course it is. In its simplest terms, this is a race for the definition of democracy.
Right.
Is democracy what it's supposed to be? We the people with certain rights, or is democracy me and the rich boys with the money with certain powers, and we'll give you a little bit? That's what it is.
Right.
Okay?
Although the
Now,
far left still thinks that, and in some cases, there's some truth to it with the conservative Democrats, that they are influenced by the wealthy. And I would.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm just saying that's what's.
I'm not calling you, Brian.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's naive, like I was naive at 19. Okay, member of SDS, change the world. Jim Morrison said it right for young people. We want the world, and we want it now. So I would say to any young person tonight who's leery, don't like Joe Biden. He's an old guy. You liked Bernie. He's an old guy. Well, okay, whatever. Look at already what Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden have gotten in, or I'm sorry, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have gotten into the thing. We're looking at things that they brought up. Now, I've never talked to Mr. Sanders. I've been fortunate enough to hear him speak a couple times in person. Bernie, to me, is a person who's much better as the outsider than the insider. Bernie Sanders would not make a good president, and I'll tell you why. He couldn't have gotten anything done. But he's a great outsider. He's a great promoter. I equate him a little bit, and people say I'm wrong. I'll be the first. Everybody dismisses Occupy, right? Remember the Occupy movement? Well, they weren't successful. But I would submit, au contraire, my friend. They were the first ones who began framing this idea of the 1%. Now, I challenge anyone pretty much to go back and find anybody. Nobody's talking about the 1%. And that's a tag now that's on there. The 1%, the 1%, the 1%. Occupy's problem, you didn't ask that, but I'll tell you what. Occupy were naive. Occupy believed you can do it without leaders, and you can't. It's a nice gesture. I was down there. I spent a lot of time, in their camps, talking to them.
Right, you were there. I know that because you live right near there, and you're right there.
And so the idea was, well, I'll give you one example. But we're talking about young people now, and Biden and this. So we're kind of off Trump, but it's true. So one time I was down there, and I watched these three young men smoking a very large joint, and I said, that's pretty cool. But marching by are all these people in suits, right? And they may well smoke at home, but oh my God, you're smoking in public, or doing marijuana in public. So I went up to him and I said, listen, guys, here's the thing. I said, you're going to dismiss me. He said, oh man, that's fine. But I said, I'm not trying to pull rank on you, but I was doing this long before you were born. And I said, here's the thing. If you're fighting to smoke marijuana in public, right? That's cool. Go ahead and do it. But I think you want more than that. Why don't you go into the tent and smoke it so nobody can see it, so you can smoke, and then come out and fight? No, man, we're going to, not, kind of like the Trump. No, we're going to do it all. Well, so you can't do it all, which Occupy tried to do. And you can't do it without leaders. Now, how does that apply to this? Well, the anti-Trump, of which I would be part, we do have leaders, all right? May not be the leader we wanted, right? But our leader now is Joe Biden. That's our leader. And Bernie Sanders, if you wanted him, he's endorsed Joe Biden.
Right. And that's an interesting point that you're making. I know where you're going with that, because Bernie has endorsed him, and then some people will say, well, he has to do it. But you know what? Bernie didn't have to do it. He did it.
No. I will say this. In my mind, there's an old thing I read, somewhere. Nothing became his life like his leaving. That kind of thing. I think Bernie's bowing out will go down as maybe
it's a tremendous
one of the
thing that he did.
But not just to bow out, but to bow out and look. There were deals made, and I don't mean deals are part of politics. They're ugly, but no. Trust me, he and his people had a lot of discussion with Biden and their people. Brock was mediating it. That's known now. And, so, I'm sure okay, Bernie, you can't win. Yeah, I can't. But how do you know that? I'll stay in, right? Maybe the first talks.
Right.
Well, Bernie, what will get to take you out? Well, look, look at your platform. You got these 7 things. I'm making up the number. You got these 7 things. Give us the 2, Bernie, that are most important to you. And we'll push them, right? Warren probably got the same kind of thing. Now, the other candidates, probably not so much, because it was to me, it was always a 3-person race: Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden. And Joe played it perfectly. Had some luck, okay, did have some luck.
And the African American vote in the South was tremendous.
Well, of course, but you know what? And I did that too when I was a political reporter. You know what the African American vote in the South is? It's a vote. It's like they don't vote in block. I mean, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's and I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying, let's discuss the African American vote in Montana.
Right. It doesn't matter.
Talk about the cowboy vote, right? And let's talk about the oil man vote in Iowa. Oh no, that's you know what I mean? All these groups that we make so much of, and I would submit to you that African Americans, like the rest of us, they have a 1%. They have a middle class. They have a poor with different concerns.
But they're critical for the Democratic Party for victory.
Well, of course they are. Of course they are. Just like rich people and racists,
right,
Aryan nation, and evangelicals are critical to the Republican Party.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, or I'll also another thing. I'm not saying Democrats are saints. They appeal to their electorate too. It's just I agree that their electorate is more important than the Republicans.
Did you do something with your mic, Dave? Your mic?
No, I didn't.
There you go. Now you're back in it. Maybe it's just the program. We're going.
I might have wiggled this. Okay. But no, I think, and this is my take, and just my take. I think that part of America, although it's not specified and spelled out, it's about the common good. And here's where I picked that up first. What's our first document? We the people. Not you, the rich guy, or you, the president, or you, the minister, whatever. It's we, the people. And I think it's very simple. I used to use this argument. And now we're seeing it. And I like to tie both of these arguments in with what we're seeing now. A society, not original with me quote, a society is only as good as its weakest members. All right. Now, I'm going to bet you bottom dollar that if somebody did eat a bat, that's not really happening. The bat did the monkey and ate the monkey and could have, all that. But I'm just saying, I bet you they weren't a billionaire, right?
Right.
So who caused all this? A poor person who got something to eat. And all of a sudden now we're finding out, look, I use this analogy just because I don't like the New England Patriots. Sorry, Patriots fans. I think they're a very good team, but I don't like them. So Tom Brady does this break, it's big news, right, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I think people are looking at that and say, yeah, Tom Brady, that's pretty cool fighter. But you know what? That 16-year-old pimply kid down there that bags my groceries, he's more important. Now, whether that will translate later, and that's what I'm saying. I think we're getting a good opportunity to look at who is truly important in our society. Will we change? Well, I don't know. But if we don't change, society is going to change anyway. Let me pick up on something that's not really Trump, but it is in a way. Trump's going to open America, what was it, Easter?
Right.
Well, that came
Easter services.
April 30th? No way. Okay.
Well, tomorrow he's going. Now, this is obviously tonight, but tomorrow he's going to come out with his plan to open up America.
Fine. Okay, fine. Let's wait and see. I mean, I'll give him, I'll look tomorrow and I'll look at his plan. But looking at science, which I'm going to follow over Donald Trump, they don't really know. Okay, but here's the things they do know. They know that this virus is a little bit different. It's not going to fold like SARS did.
Right.
Okay? It's not. But here's what they don't know. And anybody who says they do, they're not telling you this truth. If you get it, do you build up an immunity? They don't know.
They don't know that.
If you get it, can you get it again? They don't know that. Do they have an accurate test yet? They don't know that. Does it leave in the summertime?
They don't know
They don't know that. And I would submit this to people that believe that. Guess what, kids? when it's summer in the I'm saying summer in the United States, it's winter in half the world.
Right.
And we continue to travel, right?
Right. It's back and
Okay.
forth.
Right. Okay. So they don't know that. Now, they do know from past experience, even in 1918 and now, that this, kind of social isolation, social distancing does work. Well, let's look. I don't think there's social distancing in professional sports, right?
Correct.
There's not with the players, and there's too many fans. Look, I've loved music, ever since the Beatles came on and I watched those girls scream in 1964. Music's been a part of my life. I've played, off and on forever. I love going to concerts. I'd be surprised, Brian, if I go to a concert before 2021 and possibly 2022, if at all. This is going to change all that stuff. So Trump tomorrow comes out with his plan. A plan is only real if people follow it, correct?
Correct.
And I'm not putting you on the spot, but I am for a minute because you're really tough. Can Trump order you to do anything, you personally?
Obviously, it's easy to say no. That's easy. I'm not getting on the plane. I've said that before. I'm not getting on the plane. I don't even want to go to the grocery store.
I'm just saying, can he order you, Brian Weinstein, the individual, to do anything at this point when he's in Washington, D.C., and you're in New Jersey?
No, but I'm just saying, let's suppose he pulls the purse strings from the state and says, okay, you can't go back to work unless, you have to go back to work, and if you don't, you're not going to get paid.
That's your decision, right?
That's true.
That's your decision. Mm-hmm. And he's banking on something, and it's not a wrong bank. He's banking on people care more about their money than they do about their health.
Yes. Well, he does. He cares more about
it. I had this discussion. We're kind of on opposite ends. I'm not, and I don't want to be a doomsayer, but I'm not so sure public schools in the United States, in every state, will be open in September. I hope that I'm wrong. I really hope that I'm wrong. But let's assume that they are, but it's still a little iffy. Parents, is every parent going to send their child to school? I don't know. You know what I mean? Would you? I don't know. That's for parents to make. Can the district say, well, we're going to fail you, right. Whatever? I don't know yet. But see, the thing with power, and I think people forget this and fail to see it. Power is only power if you let it be a power over you. Now, am I brave enough? There's some great stories. We'll use World War II. Some great stories of some really wonderful people who said no, and they were killed on the spot.
Right.
Well, they still said no. See, I think a lot of
people... You do have
say,
the ultimate choice in the end. I get that.
But what I'm saying, I think a lot of people want to say, okay, no, but I'll use the thing since we're both familiar with school. I used to love my students. This is unfair. I said, well, then go out and protest. Oh, no, then I'll get suspended. Well, then I guess it's not that unfair, is it? I mean, I think, we want to have our way, but we want it to be comfortable. And Trump doesn't make things comfortable.
Right.
So what does that mean? And then I asked the people tonight who are listening, the two people that are still with us or whatever.
Well, it's more of an after the fact type of show. This will be out.
I know. I'm just joking. Someday we'll have a larger audience. The only show that'll beat us will be Ruth Maddows. Maddows show. Maddox. No. But anyway, the idea here is, okay, do you really think, and I'm posing this more as a hypothetical to people out there, not to you. Do you really think Mary Cuomo is going to bend to Trump?
He'd be the least.
Cuomo is riding a high right now, right? And a deserved high.
And thankfully, the strongest states economically in the country are the very ones that he wants to put back to work, and he can't force them to.
Exactly. Okay, they're also the ones. Okay, I'll use Washington, D.C. We're a relatively crowded city. For people who don't know where I live, I say Washington, D.C. Technically, that's not true. It's Crystal City, 3 metro stops from Washington, D.C. So I can be at the National Mall in 3 metro stops. Okay, our city is 22,000 people living in high rises, 19 hotels, which are the airport hotels and adjacent, and Boeing and Lockheed and PBS and now Amazon and also Bloomberg News, all here and more coming. So that's 22,000 people. But on Monday through Friday here, there's 60,000 people who come in here to work.
Correct.
Right? That's a lot of people. Okay. So right now, of that 60,000, there's under 1,000 that are working because they're working from home. Do you really think if you're working from home that that Boeing is going to ask you to come in and lose you? See, Trump doesn't understand that. So, Boeing doesn't want to lose its good workers. It can work fine at home, right? Factories can't. Let's look at the other side. People say it'll be phased in, but I sometimes wonder about that. I understand. This is some insight, some news. I was talking to a person last night, works for a Washington, D.C. department, and their boss is pretty good. And the day they let him go, he called all the workers in this particular area and showed them the plan. Now, remember, this is a plan in what, March? Mm-hmm. So I want you to know in March. And this is what he told him. He said, when we come back, he didn't say if, he said when, and it will be when. He said, here's what's going to happen. We're going to have an A group, a B group, a C group, and a D group, right? The A group will work 1 week and then work from home 3. B group, etc., and we'll go around. Eventually, we'll try to get, if everything works out that way, maybe we'll combine, we'll do some A's and B's, right? And we'll keep mixing and matching. And so somebody, I'm just imagining this, but I don't know if they told him to imagine. Well, said, boss, when it, he said maybe by 2023 we'd be coming, and it may never be that way. I mean, we're finding out things. Look, doctors are finding out things. Do you really have to go to the doctor's office for your physical if nothing's wrong? The teleconferencing you're seeing. School's a little different. But here's the thing about schools, and I don't want to worry anyone, but you have to think about this. All right. A factory. Trump orders them back. Say it's safe. Trump orders them back. But they'd say, nah, we still got to phase in. Okay, that's fine. So you take a third of your factory and put it in, right?
Right.
So you can make stuff, right? Still make stuff. Now, or let's say half. That's fine. Now you tell me how a school is going to open with half its teachers and half its students. Now, could you conceivably have, in a high school that was 9 to 12, could you have 9 and 11 week? Wow. Okay. And I think they're the things, that Trump doesn't consider. Again, I'm not privy, but I really do believe, first of all, you wouldn't listen to anybody. My idea of a leader, not that you care or anybody else should care, but I've been in some leadership positions. And the first thing I think I always did, I hope, and people have to judge us, I went out and found my critics. Mm-hmm. Not critics I dismissed who hated me, but critics who saw some other way. Because I wanted to have everything raised, every possible objection raised. I'll bring it down a little bit. My wife doesn't allow me to cook for a couple of reasons. I make things too spicy, she says, but I'm the messiest cook in America. And she's probably right. But my argument is, doesn't matter until it's on the plate, right? I don't care. When it's on the plate, that's when you're judged. And that's the way I look at leadership. It's only judged when it comes out, right? Nobody needs to know what's behind the scenes. Trump doesn't have any behind the scenes. Who does advise him? Ivanka? She doesn't see, he puts her, Jared?
Or who dares advise him?
Melania? Barron? Beavis and Butthead, his twin sons, No, I don't know there's anybody. I know he does have some friends. Bob Kraft, I think, apparently from what I've read, and I think this is true, Bob Kraft appreciates him because through his divorce, Donald kind of got to him, a lot of people don't like Bob Kraft because he's the owner of the Patriots, right? Winner. But yeah, I'm sure. Again, this is kind of an aside, but I've talked about this. I think it's a great time to bring it up. If you really want to try to understand Donald Trump, I would suggest there's a movie you need to see. Plot for America is pretty cool, but that's fiction. See Who's Roy Cohn. For those of you who don't know, very briefly, Roy Cohn is one of the most immoral
despicable human being
to ever pass a bar exam. These were his 2 biggest clients. And see if anybody out there can find a parallel between the 2. Joe McCarthy and Donald Trump. Now it goes beyond that with Donald Trump. People who know both of them, and they reveled in that role, Donald had an abysmal childhood. That doesn't excuse how he acts now. His mother was cold. Supposedly, she said, "Oh my God, he's a hideous monster." And his father, never good enough, right? Donald was never good enough. So those kinds of people desperately look. He's a classic case looking for affirmation later in life. And he found it in Roy Cohn, and they were mutual users. And here, if you see the movie, but these are the two that stuck with me. Roy Cohn, see if it sounds like Donald Trump. Roy Cohn said, never tell the truth, lie. If you get caught, deny the lie, make it bigger. Keep lying, and eventually it'll either go away or people believe your lie. And the other, he said, the cardinal rule is never apologize. Never apologize. It's a sign of weakness. Move forward. That's pretty much Donald Trump.
Right.
And now here's the thing. Roy Cohn was very successful until he wasn't. He died. He hated two groups probably more than others, Jewish people and homosexuals. And he was a Jewish homosexual. So he had a lot of self-hatred.
And a self-hating homosexual.
And Jewish people, yeah. So who does Donald Trump hate? I don't think he has that. But Donald Trump is not a hater. He's a lover of himself. And wow. Wow. Melania, people talk about her. Yeah, I'll talk about her tonight. She made a deal. Okay. Is it a bad deal? I don't know. From what I've been told, and again, I do have some inside information here by people that I believe, that on the night that it was announced, two things. On the night that it was announced that he won, he did not have prepared a winning speech. He did not expect to win. And the second thing was that Melania in the room left the room screaming and crying. And, she signed on to be a rich person's wife. I don't think she signed on to be the first lady. The problem is you make the deal with the devil.
You have to sit with it.
You got to sit there. That's right, Brian.
No,
exactly.
That's, yeah, I mean, I had so much tonight to go over, David. We've covered a lot as it is. I'm afraid to even attempt to go on.
What people, anybody listening to us, hell, they need to go to bed. Right. Listen, Brian, we didn't talk a lot about this. We just talked. You called me and you said, "Let's do a show."
Right.
Said,
this was not something. Was
nothing. I mean, but I really enjoy this, and I think what happens is, okay. I think we all have a responsibility in America to stand up for what we believe in. I taught my students. Well, let's talk a little bit about politics and teachers. I've had people accuse me. They say, "Oh my God, I'm glad you should never have been a teacher, as political as you are."
Right.
So go out back and ask my students. They didn't know I was political because I think there's things that you don't do. Two things teachers don't do. You don't proclaim your politics, and you don't have sex with your students. Okay, you just don't.
Right,
You just don't. Their nose. Once you're out, there's hands off. But one of the things I did try to teach my students is think. And I said, when you think you have the stand, don't be afraid to express it. And I look at a lot of them, and they're expressing the wrong side because they're with Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. But I have to respect that, right? I mean, I do. I mean, I told them to do that. So I think we do that. And I think this is one way that actually it's funny you should do this. I was looking, I don't do this anymore. We'll talk in later shows. I do have an anti-Trump Facebook page. I do write some things about Mr. Trump on my personal page, but I think you have to segment it. So this is a great way. I said, hell, it's not like I have a lot of prior commitments. I lecture at the Smithsonian. This is an interesting thing for people, right? At the earliest now, they won't say the lectures have been pushed back to August and September. Okay. And I won't see that.
By the way, if I can mention people who are listening or will be listening, because I imagine a lot more people will be watching it after, because live, obviously.
Next week, Brian, I just a teaser. I heard you're going to do it with no clothes on. Is that correct?
Yeah. But what I'm really saying is that, Dave, when you and I speak, and this kind of happens like with Paul, because we've already had conversations, but I even said to you, and you can verify it, before he came on, I said, Dave, there's some things I want to discuss. I'm so angry about the press conference today.
But you're smiling now. See what we did?
Well, I understand that, but I said when we have the discussion, let's not. I broke you off right before you could even start answering the question. I said, save it, because I don't want to have to do the same thing twice. Let's just wait. So it was completely unprepared, and I apologize for that. But
well, the thing is, okay, look, if you really believe in something, then you should give it some reflection, right? And thought. And trust me, I really believe, to anyone listening or ever does listen to this rebroadcast, I believe this from my heart right here. I believe Donald Trump is bad for me. I think he's bad for you. I know he's bad for my grandchildren. I'm certain he's bad for the country.
Bad for the climate too.
And I'm certain he's bad for the world. In fact, I would ask you out there, who is Donald Trump good for? And I'll tell you, Donald Trump. And anybody who wants to follow him. But that's all he cares about. So, I think you can feel passionately. And one time, I like to discuss this. We didn't tonight, and we didn't prepare. It's a really challenge, okay? I kind of considered myself a man of peace and love and understanding. 60s activist, like that kind of thing. But, Donald Trump, and I'll leave people with this thought. To me, Donald Trump is the best example I've seen in my lifetime of someone who has the reverse Midas touch. And what I mean is everything Donald Trump touches turns to shit.
Right.
Everything. And he brings out the worst in his supporters, and he brings out the worst in his opponents. And it took me a long time to understand that it is okay to hate Donald Trump. And now, I'm not saying he is Adolf Hitler, but shouldn't you have hated Adolf Hitler? Yeah, you should have.
But it's his behavior that can get us in the same type. Eventually, we dealt with Hitler, and thankfully, he was gone.
The problem is, Brian, for America, Hitler wasn't America, right? He was the other country. Now the Hitler, the fascist, and then this is something else for a topic. I'm just going to plan it for you for some time. I think it would be interesting to discuss. I don't know. Why is it that Americans are so afraid? I shouldn't say all. You never say all. So many Americans are so afraid of socialism and communism, the word, even though they don't understand what it is, and so acceptant of fascism and authoritarianism. And I have some thoughts on that. And I think that would be an interesting topic. And hopefully, as this develops, we'll get, more than Joey Fulcher. Joey, I hope you're not.
Ronnie said hello too, by the way. So
I hope Joey went to bed. He's a good friend of ours.
Yes.
I guess I'll just leave it on a personal note, Brian. You and I agree on a lot of things. We disagree on a lot of things, and that's fine. But I can't think of anyone I would have more fun doing a show with except one person. And do you know who that is?
Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah, that would be. Oh, yeah. No, actually, it's related to Donald Trump. That would be Stormy Daniels. If Stormy could replace you tomorrow, and I'd feel fine. But let's keep it Brian and Dave. So thanks for having me. Okay. I hope we're not doing this forever. I hope we can end this show.
This is pure politics here. A lot of people don't like politics, but this is just pure politics. I'm not ashamed of it. This is just something I had to do for those who do enjoy politics. A lot of people don't, so I wanted to separate this from anything I do.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but that's what I do best. I understood that you were going to do this show. You have a nice shirt to have on, but you were doing it in tighty whities underwear. Do you have pants on?
You're going in the wrong direction now.
Okay. All right, man.
All right.
I'm signing off. I got to go to bed in a couple
hours. And share this if you would on your page, and I will put it on.
And then it'll be again. This is for anybody going to try this, right? We tried an experiment tonight. It may or may not work. Everything I do now in my life is an experiment. I'm a freelance in everything I do, right? And I think what I found out is that you try stuff. Some of it works, some of it doesn't.
But especially now, you have to.
No, but I'm just saying, if it's passionate, like you're passionate about the environment, I'm passionate about some other things. I care about the environment. But there's just if you're passionate, young people, old people, do something. And the other thing I would say is, now I'm laughing at you. When we first talked, you were pretty hot about tonight, right?
I was so angry with Trump today. It was frightening what I saw.
No, I understand that. But here's the thing. This, I don't know if you realize this. This was actually therapy for you and me. When you talk about things, it gets it out. Okay, there's a long history of that, all right? the Catholic Church. Confession is a wonderful thing. Getting indulgences to be excused is the bad part. They fucked that part up. All right. But the idea of confessing your sins or talking about, I have a couple friends now that are really in some serious shit, and they won't talk about it. I'm not going to force them, but I know. So whether it's something, and the other thing with politics, people, well, it's just politics. I submit to you, out there, anyone listening, that politics after your family, and maybe even before your family, affects everything you do. It's all politics.
Right.
It's all politics. So I don't understand how people don't vote.
That's going to happen
some
too.
countries. I mean, it's there. Okay. And if you don't think it's there, what I want you to do, if you don't think politics is there, break a law tomorrow and see what
happens. Right. Well, this is what I on the other channel, which I love dearly. I know that a lot of people don't like politics, so in my own chat room they attack me because I'm political. I mean, and I'm pragmatic too, and that makes it difficult.
Well, and you're emotional, and I think that's another thing about this. I ask this to people. You say, "Oh, you're just attacking Trump because you don't like him." Yeah, okay, I got that. I don't like him. Okay, I don't. I detest. I can do the whole D words. Detest him. He's despicable, disgusting. If revolting began with D, I throw that in the D words, right? But it goes beyond that. And they don't say, had it been Jeb Bush, I wouldn't be this active against him. I wouldn't like what he did.
Right.
I wouldn't be. Had it been Kasich from Ohio, I would have disagreed, but I wouldn't have done that. The only possible person, and that would be on religious grounds, would be Ted Cruz. And I don't believe I'm saying this, but I would prefer Ted Cruz over Donald Trump. There's a meme going around now where this disgusting, dirty potato that's diseased. And they kind of say, if this potato were running for president against Donald Trump, I would vote for this potato. And that's where some of us are. And I would vote for that potato. Of course. But, and I would hope as this continues, that we get some listeners with some good questions. I would welcome anybody to call every Trump supporter in America, and watch this show. Mm-hmm. I love, it's not a debate. We're not going to scream. Mm-hmm. I use satire and sarcasm and belittling because that's, it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, I mean, I think they do. I mean, I will say this. They have a right to what they say, and they have a right to vote how they vote. That's the American way. But I have a right to disagree with everything they say, and I have a right to actively negate their vote by getting some other person, because my vote will negate theirs, and then they'll really be negated when I get that other person.
Right.
Brian, it's been fun, man.
All right, thank you, Dave. Have a nice night, and until the next press conference that pisses me off, like you did today.
Or before, if you want to make this a more regular thing, let me know.
Yeah, I'll, like I say, I have to do my politics thing, and that's the whole reason behind this.
And I like this too, because I don't write about it anymore, so it's fun to do.
And you might piss off some of your conservative friends. All right. See you, Dave.
I've still got a couple. I'm trying to piss them off. Right. God. Right. If you're conservative, I don't like you. No.
Okay. All right.
Good night, bro.
Good night.